All right. Our next presenter this evening is Eeva Latosuo. Eeva is an associate professor in outdoor studies at Alaska Pacific University, part-time Avalanche educator with the Alaska Avalanche School, and the education trustee for the American Avalanche Association, or A3. Born and raised in Finland, she's called AK home for the last 17 years. Before moving up north, she sampled other mountain regions in North America, which included skiing Mount Baker during the big snow year back in the day, ski patrolling in Colorado for 5 years, and instructing mountaineering courses in the North Cascades and the Coast Range. During the winter, Eeva teaches advanced avalanche courses around the country. With all her spare time, she volunteers for the Alaska Mountain Rescue Group, and she drinks strong coffee. Tonight, her title is Where Do We Want to Go? Exploring Backcountry Travelers' Destination Choices. Social sciences have improved our understanding of cognitive processes of individual and groups engaging in decisions on how to reduce avalanche risk. This growing field of science is yet to ask the simplest of questions. How does a backcountry traveler decide where to go from all the available options? Avalanche education offers practical decision-making frameworks for the effective information flow and communication patterns. Eeva's talk will focus on her study that looks into the variables in play and the steps taken by backcountry travelers to reach their destination decision. Thanks for being here, Eeva.
Thank you. I'm just going to share my screen here. All right, well done. I'm not butchering my name or anything, and I apologize ahead of here that I'm having a little bit of a Finnish accent, but it all comes to play here in the end. So my audio is good. Can you guys verify?
It's great on my end, and
Great.
Your screen looks good.
Excellent. So as a researcher up here in Alaska, I've been interested in learning more about the backcountry travelers' destination choices. And really the motivation for the study that I'm launching this season is to get a baseline understanding of how the general tour decisions are made and how individual and group interact when they're agreeing where to go. So I'm going to jump back into the track that Spencer so nicely laid out, that we don't often have enough actual data of where the recreationists are going and what they're doing. Accident data doesn't give us that. And Ryan Butler, yeah, let's talk after this presentation, because I'm interested in what kind of data did you find last season? All right, so for the last 17 years, I have lived and worked in Anchorage, Alaska, on the traditional lands of the Naina Athabascans. And Alaska is totally like world-class destination for any backcountry traveler due to the wild nature of the water and land and mountains. And for just to give you some sense of scale here in Alaska, we have 13 different mountain ranges within the state. And Anchorage is a unique spot for backcountry skiing and snow machining because within just 1 hour of travel, we can reach 3 different mountain ranges with totally different snow climates. So I can go north to Talkeetna Mountains to seek out intermountain dry and shallower snowpack, or I can go south into Kenai Mountains for thicker maritime snowpack, or I can stay close to home in the Chugach Range to see what the winds have left undisturbed on generally very shallow snowpack. If I'm willing to travel a few hours further in the car, or if I can afford a plane ride, I can go play in the eastern Chugach Range in Valdez, or I can take my chances on storm skiing in the majestic Denali National Park over there. So choices, choices, choices. Where do I want to go on my valuable ski time? And how do I make those decisions? So one of the first variables that I'm thinking about is how much time I have and how far I want to travel. I can get an easy after work lap in the Front Range, 15 minutes from my house, 2 hours car to car. Here on the pictures on the left. Or picture on the right is from Alaska Range. I can plan a week-long spring ski expedition to the range, which requires much more careful thought on budget, time, and who are the appropriate partners for something like this. But most commonly, I have 1 full day to be in the mountains, so I consider my options between Hatcher Pass to the north or Turnagain Pass to the south. And I will look at the avalanche hazard rating when that's available for those zones, but that is really not the only factor that I'm playing. I'm asking, where is the snow quality better, of course? Or will one of the places offer better terrain choices for whom I'm going skiing with? I'm also always asking, how is the visibility in these locations? Note that in Alaska, most of the skiing is done above tree line, where low visibility is total drag. Okay, let's say I decide to go to Turnagain Pass, and I just want to show, so this picture on the right is the skiing conditions right now. This picture is taken last weekend, and we are already skiing mid-October. So if I decide to go to the Turnagain Pass, I have to figure out a more specific spot to go to. Will there be parking available at Tin Can Trailhead on a crowded weekend? Probably not. Do I want to ski something more novel and a little further away from the car, like Cold Pan here on the right? Is there a suncrest on the Sail Ridge side of the road? What if my partners have like totally different idea where we should be going? So that brings me to my research questions. I have 3 main research questions that I want to start figuring out this winter. The first research question is, what are the typical factors that individuals include when they decide where they want to go for their backcountry adventure? Secondly, I want to know how the group comes to the decision on where they go. And lastly, I want to make sure that I know how the individual traits, experience, or training levels might impact these choices. So you're hearing this presentation because I'm looking for participants. So our research is centered in South Central Alaska and then Southeast Alaska near Juneau. But since Alaska is kind of unique little spot, I would love to have participants recruited also from Washington. That's where you guys come in. And also in Oregon. I'm going to give the same talk at NSAW in about a month. And because we just think that talking with very geographical regions would give us a better data collection to generalize our thoughts. And we are also looking for participants in Finland because I have a collaborator there and that is my native country. So this presentation is invitation to participate, and I will provide you with the details in the end of my talk, but let me set up the scene first. Okay, I'm going to start from the bottom. So do individuals' characteristics, experience, or training level affect the destination choices? So each of one has strengths and imperfections as backcountry partners. As a backcountry skier, I will take responsibility to have adequate avalanche training and skills that I keep sharp for each outing. I also evaluate the right equipment for the tour and fitness level for the objective. And Avalanche Education has really done a really good job on getting us all on the same page with these basics. Personal risk tolerance is also another super important factor that is talked about in the Avalanche Education work. Risk tolerance is a continuum from aggressive risk taker to cautious risk avoider. And risk tolerance and experience level really truly define what kind of options are available on your run list for any given day. Now, for aggressive risk takers, where I want to go can differ vastly with the objectives that are on the list for risk-averse partner. So you got to be kind of on the same tolerance level. Also, sometimes it makes it tough to align where I want to go with where I could go or where I should go in not get into trouble. And similarly, individuals that are beginners have less options for where I could go. And since I'm interested in social sciences, mostly been reading into social psychology in the recent months, I'm interested in the relationship between individual personality traits and the destination choices. So this Big 5 personality inventory is one of the most widely used and established psychometric tools to help gain understanding on the core components of personality. And the Big 5 includes following: agreeableness, conscientiousness, extroversion, emotional sensitivity, and openness to experiences. And while there are some limitations to this theory, use of Big 5 as a rough descriptor of an individual's traits seems adequate for our application, looking at the relationships not really causation. So to get you a little more on board here, the participants in the study will be asked to self-report their Big Five inventory for the researchers. And all the 5 components are continuums between opposing characteristics, and our general personality sits somewhere on the line connecting the 2 extreme ends. For example, agreeableness varies between friendly and compassionate to critical and non-attached. Conscientiousness ranges from efficient and organized to easygoing and maybe careless. Extroversion is defined between outgoing and energetic, and solitary and reserved. Emotional sensitivity is also called neuroticism, which means sensitivity to negative emotions. And this varies between sensitive and nervous, and secure and confident. And openness to experience can range between curious and inventive, and cautious and consistent. So I'm sure all of you can read through these 5 arrows and have a little bit of a sense where you might sit in for each of these traits. And then if you think about your most common backcountry partner, you might even be able to see if you are actually on the polar sides of the arrow, or are they pretty well aligned somewhere in close vicinity. So in our study, we're interested to see if there are any relationships between personality traits and destination variables. Is an easily accessible location, for example, more desirable to cautious personalities? Or does more aggressive individual prioritize anticipated snow quality over ease of access? So moving on to question number 2. How does group come to a conclusion on where to go? Next, we're going to look at how the group influences the destination. So what about the group? I'm very particular about the group that I go out in the backcountry with. Small group size and fun and safe partners are key components for a successful day for me. Avalanche Education has brought us on the same page on the best communication patterns, effective leadership, and how to create group dynamics that support every and each one of us. And I'm actually super looking forward to Rob Capolillo's presenting his talk on group versus team that's following up after my talk. So now stay with me a little bit. I'm going to get you deep into my background research. So Chaheen et al. In 2017 approached medical education teams to learn about how they make small group evaluations to come up with the judgment. And they looked at this process and they defined 3-pronged framework. Schema orientation focuses on process. Constructivist orientation focuses on mental models, and social influence orientation focuses on social identities. So, oops, sorry, too quick of a finger there. So schema orientation focuses on the process of decision-making. So groups that use this framework emphasize the steps of decision-making over any other factors. So they kind of follow their set procedure, they have a routine, and they go over that every given time. And it's kind of like a very flow-oriented method. And most Avalanche education, again, provides us very good tools for this. And I'm showing you an example of a daily flow chart that's from Sierra Avalanche Center. And thanks, Travis Feist, for sharing this with me. Then we have the constructivist orientation that looks for a shared mental model. So this approach depends on who is in the group, what are kind of information they bring in, and how they construct information together. So these were like super solid communication between the partners where everybody's bringing in and everybody's listening, and you're just like kind of solving the puzzle together is really important. And once again, in Avalanche Education, we talk a lot about information gathering and how it fits in together. And especially in professional Avalanche training, it often goes into creating really solid shared mental models as a part of operational culture and procedures, so that all this information, the mental mode of information is really similar between all the team members. And with my new romance with social psychology, I've been really interested in the social influence orientation. So let's look at that next. It means that an individual's decisions are impacted by their social identity within the group. So prominence of social media actually adds interest to social influence orientation, because the group can pretty much have virtual members that are outside the group that's sitting there in physical beings. And these individuals who are in the group might identify with somebody else, and that social influence will distill into the group. And SFU's group has Amélie Boucher. I'm like totally butchering her last name, but she's talking on your last evening about the social media. So it'll be cool for you to kind of connect her talk with what I'm talking about in here. If we continue on, so there are a few typical social influencing actions. Conformity is a social influence where individuals give in to group pressure, or individuals are going always with the majority. Another way to look at social influence is compliance. That means that the members in the group act according to standards that that group has created. So, and how much individuals will comply depends on the power of who is suggesting. And this power of suggester could come from place of being expert, or the person who has most information, or it could be even coercive power. We know that some of us are better at manipulating others' thoughts than all of us are. And I'm not saying it as in like, oh, coercive power. Peer influence has several positive emotional outcomes. It often makes the group feel happier, makes the group feel achievement together, and they might even feel more in control when the peers are feeling a similar way. But it can also lead to regret, which is seen, of course, a negative emotion. So conformity and compliance. All right. Well then, interestingly though, social psychology research suggests that more diverse and less uniform groups make better quality decisions, since differing voices and perspectives in the group can widen the information gathering and offer more creative solutions. And so it is like we discussed diversity and inclusion a lot in other type of level, most social justice work, but you can just open up the door a little bit and looking at, are all your ski partners the same, or are there anybody there that is a little different, that they might offer you a total new way of looking at that ski destination where you want to always go. All right, so then we have group interactions such as persuasion, argumentation that will change members' positions towards the choices. So argumentation is a skill of negotiation, of providing a lot of information. And we all, we use argumentation as part of our conversations all the time. Persuasion then, it's very different from seeking compromise. Because in compromise, each member is giving up something to reach a conclusion. But in persuasion, an individual seeks to defeat any opposition to get what they would like to do. And maybe you can relate to some conversations you've had with your ski or riding partners where somebody has totally persuaded you to do something that you might originally have not wanted. Or you might remember a time when you all kind of compromised, you brought in different kind of information, decided on where you want to go by including everybody's voices. Last thing that Charlene et al. Added was the moderator impact for this orientation framework. This is essentially the impact that a strong leader, designated or emergent, can have for the direction it's heading. And sometimes the moderator figure can be outside the actual physical group of people and still yet leave pretty set parameters. And alternatively, strong regulations or external rules could also limit what the group is thinking. Okay, enough about social psychology, people. Let's get back to the research questions. So our main interest, though, is on typical factors that are included in decisions for backcountry destinations. So what are those factors? And we have identified 16 of them, and they are they make these locations desirable in different ways. And when we're going to start the research project, we're asking participants on weekly basis check in and tell us what were some of the factors, or what were the factors that apply to their decision making. So for example, I just went for my first tour of the season on October 3rd, whoop whoop, yay Alaska. And when I picked the location for that, first of all, it fit my time restraint. I only had half a day of time. And then anticipated snow quality was really good. It was a cold storm and it was close to town. So those were the things. So I didn't really think about anticipated avalanche conditions at all when I chose the destination. It wasn't a new location. It didn't have anything to do with familiarity, but I used these two factors to decide where I wanted to go. All right, bring you in a little bit. So as a workshop audience, think about your choices in your zone. And I imagine you also start with the map of all the zones available. I've just chosen Snoqualmie Pass here. I know that you have a lot of other places that you go skiing, like Mount Baker or the Olympics or whatever. But let's just right now do these thought exercises on Snoqualmie Pass. So I do want to remind you that maybe even in your neck of the woods, you're thinking about some total logistical things like, will there be a parking spot where I'm going to go? Overcrowding is true even here in Alaska. But after spending some time in Pacific Northwest this summer, I can totally relate. I can imagine what your parking lots look like in the winter, and especially over COVID winters. So obviously this is one of the factors that you're probably thinking about. But let's say that you decide to go to the Kendall zone. I heard that that's a very common zone to go to. So now if you decided to go there, you still have to hone down into more specific objectives according to what? What are you thinking about? Are you thinking about avalanche hazard? Are you thinking about length of the tour? Or think about partners? So I'm gonna give you guys like 30 seconds of time, and I want you to do an interactive exercise on your own right now. Or you can do it if you're sharing a screen with somebody else, you can have a conversation. But I want you guys to list 3 factors that would make you choose either Kendall trees, which looks like it's all treed zone, looks probably more, I don't know, I'm not going to say anything. And then another option is Kendall Peak. So I want you to use, I don't know, 30 seconds of time to think about list of factors that would make Kendall Peak your choice, or Kendall trees your choice. And hey, Scott, would it be possible for me to ask somebody to share their answer?
That's a great question. I'm not sure that the webinar tool has that.
Okay.
Oh yeah, actually, why don't, that's great. Why don't we put it in the Q&A?
Yeah, sounds good.
And I can read it out. Yeah. So
yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah, let's have a few people share their answer and
Yeah,
we'll pick one or two. Can you see the Q&A, Eva?
I don't, so you
Okay.
can just read them to me.
Great,
That's
cool.
great. Yeah, and I don't want to exhaust your time. I'm giving a presentation, but I just want you guys to think about it a little bit. How easy or hard it is. And obviously, Scott, I can't even see the Q&A. I don't see any of it. Oh, I guess I can, but I'm not going to open it up.
Yeah. There's a visibility, stability, and time are three that came in from BJ. Carmela is visibility, experience level, time.
Yeah, great. All right, well, keep that same methodology going. If you feel like you didn't get your voices heard, you know now that you can go to Q&A and grab the floor. We're going to go to a next location, and another popular spot is Chair Mountain. And here are pictures, thank you, from Jeremy Allen. One is from Thumbtack Gully, and the other one is of Cache Couloir. And so maybe you can think about this side. Why would you choose to use one route or the other using factors? And now we're talking about like you are trying to make the plan kind of beforehand. So what would make you decide to go on Thumbtack on the left instead of Cache Couloir on the right?
Seems like AVI danger, wind exposure, and solar effect we're getting.
Yeah.
Conditions, time, and experience.
Yep. All right, great. And we're just ramping it up. So I'm going to leave one more exercise like this. So what factors would need to align for you to decide to really go ski for Mount Daniel?
Waiting for those to come in here. Road, fitness, and weather. Brad says strong partners. Aaron says group, weather, and EVI forecast. Time, fitness, and conditions.
Great. Excellent. Thanks. Thanks for providing. I've been looking at these pictures and I'm like, I so want to come down there to ski. So I want to do a little like a professional trip down there. Anyway, so now the question is, where do you want to go skiing? And I want you to tell me all about it over the next winter season. So what I need from you guys is, what we're asking the participants to do is in the beginning of the research part, there's an initial survey that's, I don't know, maybe it takes about 20 minutes or so. And it asks for demographic information and asks you to complete a personality inventory. That's 50 questions, so it's not that big of a deal, and all the confidential issues have been solved with that. And then after that, you'll do weekly submissions online. And those weekly submissions will take about 5 minutes of time. And I think there's like a learning curve that you learn how to do it more efficiently week by week because it's in your mind. And what we really want you to do is like submit, like, where did you go or not go? And if you didn't go, why didn't you go? Where did you go? With whom did you go? How did you decide where to go? And what were the factors involved with that? So what, where, with whom, and why? And so now I'm hoping that you all are interested. So currently we're just collecting information of people who are interested in participating, and you can just scan the QR code or go on this form and fill it out. And then we'll contact you in December to get you fully on board if you are willing. And I really want to thank Northwest Avalanche Center for inviting me to give this talk. And special thanks to Katie Warren, Jeremy Allen, and Matt Schoenwald for sharing all the amazing local knowledge of Snoqualmie zone for this presentation. And I don't know if I have time for questions.
Yeah, thanks, Eva. That was awesome. We definitely have a few moments for questions. So if you want to populate the Q&A. Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate your work and you're taking the time tonight to present. I think it's just awesome. You know, we need more interdisciplinary work trying to look at, like, you know, these human factors and how people are making decisions. I just really appreciate the stuff that you're doing. Definitely my big takeaway is I need to get up to Alaska right now for some early season turns. That's like, that was my first thing I made a note of. But one of the questions that I had, I'm just wondering, in your research and work, do you have any discovery around if recreationists are like ever clearly stating where they won't go? Is that, I mean, that's something that professionals have done for many years, is kind of either define objectives or define like terrain in which, like, today we're not going here. Is that anything you've ever looked at or seen with recreational groups?
No, I have not looked at that, but I just know that that's something that we're trying to teach on Avalanche courses, right? Like what terrain is off limits. Now we don't know what the course students do when they go out on their own, and that's like one of the things why I'm drawn to this research, is actually learning from people what they are doing when they get in the field. But I think that's a good thought. Like, we haven't really looked at that.
Yeah. Brad's got a question. He says, regarding how you plan to develop your data set for individual personality types, do you plan on having participants self-evaluate, or do you plan to have them answer an algorithmic questionnaire to determine their personality inventory?
Yeah, so this is like it's an open source standardized psychometric tool. And so what I'm asking the participants to do is to do that questionnaire and then report back or put the results in the questionnaire that while I am collecting the data. So it's like what is it? Like it gives you the result that you'll share with me.
Awesome.
And I'm thinking about that often as a researcher. Like, that's like self-reporting is such a research limitation, but that's what this research is all about, is how are people deciding for themselves where they're going. So might as well, they're either lying to me through the whole time or they're honest with me the whole time, and I'm hoping that they're honest with me.
Fingers crossed. Aaron's asking, are the snow stashes kept confidential? So in your research, when you're asking people where they're going, are you keeping that confidential?
It's all going to be confidential. I haven't thought of it yet. I'm really looking at like destinations from the trailhead and just a normal ATS terrain rating. And your stash is going to be confidential with me.
Secret stash will remain so, huh?
Yeah, that's it. But whatever you put on your social media, that's obviously for everybody to see out. So I would be more worried about that feed than what's coming out of my research vault. Yeah.
And then Forrest is asking a question. Do you think data collection could be incorporated into a level 2 Avalanche class? Or rather, would you be interested in collecting data from level 2 students?
Yeah, I will see. Like right now, obviously, I don't know how much I actually have to recruit for folks to come in, but I have a few additional ways how I might start recruiting people. I would really like to see like the general backcountry population, all the different variant of mechanized, non-mechanized, beginners to advanced, recreationists, and we'll see what I get. So. But yeah, level 2 student really is like the advanced recreationists that I would really like to see. And we're trying to relate training levels with the destination choices as well. So we're asking a bunch of questions in the demographics too.
Well, that's awesome. Thanks for the time tonight, and I'd encourage everyone to participate in this research. It's great to see you, and good luck with all that early season snow up there in Alaska.
Yeah, I'll try to take a few turns for you, Scott, if you don't make it. Thanks
Yeah.
so much.
Thanks. See you later.